why does one bad year hit so hard? If you're within 10 years of retirement or already retired, this is the one risk you cannot afford to ignore. What happens to your 401k or your IRA if the market drops 40% the year you retire? Not 5 years before, not 5 years after, the year you retire. Most people think the answer is simple, just wait it out. The market always recovers. But that's wrong, and it's one of the most expensive mistakes you can make in retirement. Because in retirement, the order of your returns matters just as much as the returns themselves. It's called sequence of returns risk, and if you don't have a plan for it, a single bad year can permanently reduce the income you can safely withdraw for the next 30 years. I'm John Conrad, forensic accountant and founder of Numeratus.us. We're the white glove concierge accounting firm for ambitious startups, entrepreneurs, and high net worth clients. We cut through the complexity, eliminate compliance roadblocks, and help you safely navigate business and wealth protection in the 21st century. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why the old 4% rule can fail in today's volatility, walk you through 3 real retiree case studies in the year 2000, 2008, and 2022, and give you a practical crash year checklist you can use to protect your portfolio if the market drops right when you need it most. If you're within 10 years of retirement or already retired, this is the one risk you cannot afford to ignore. So why does one bad year hit so hard? You saved the same amount, you invested the same funds, and the market eventually recovers. What changes just because the crash happens now instead of later? Imagine 2 retirees, Alex and Jordan. Both retire at 65 with $1 million. Both plan to withdraw $40,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. Both invest in a 60-40 portfolio, and over the next 30 years, both experience the exact same average annual return, about 7%. The only difference is the order of those returns. Alex gets the bad years first, a 20% drop in year 1, another 10% drop in year 2, then the market recovers. Jordan gets the good years first, strong gains early. The 30% drop happens in year 15. By year 30, Alex is nearly broke. Jordan still has more than $700,000. Same average return, same withdrawal amount, completely different outcomes. Why? Because when you're withdrawing money from a portfolio, you're not just watching a line go up and down. You're selling investments to fund your life. And when the market is down, every dollar you withdraw locks in losses that can't recover. If you withdraw $40,000 in a year when your portfolio is down 40%, that $40,000 withdrawal is effectively costing you $66,000 of pre-cash value. That share of your portfolio is gone. It doesn't participate in the recovery. That is the sequence of returns risk in one sentence. The order of your investment returns can matter more than the average return over your retirement. So if the order of returns matters this much, why do so many retirement plans still use the 4% rule? The 4% rule comes from a famous 1994 study by Bill Bengen. He looked at historical US market data and found that a retiree with 50-50 stock bond portfolio could withdraw 4% of the initial portfolio value in year 1, then adjust that amount for inflation each year and not run out of money over a 30-year retirement. It was a huge breakthrough. And for a long time, it worked. But here's the problem. The 4% rule assumes you retire into average market conditions. It does not assume you retire into a 40% crash. Bengen's own data showed that the safe withdrawal rate in bad starting years could drop closer to 3.3% or even lower. In great starting years, it could rise above 5%. So 4% is not a magic number. It's a historical average, and today's environment makes it even shakier. Bonds, which are supposed to stabilize a portfolio, delivered negative real returns for years after 2020. Inflation spiked, valuations were stretched, and volatility has become the norm, not the exception. If you blindly withdraw 4% plus inflation through a crash, you're doing the financial equivalent of driving with your eyes closed and hoping the road is straight. The 4% rule is a useful starting point, but it is not a survival plan because it was never designed to handle the exact scenario retirees fear most. So what does a better plan look like? Let's compare 2 withdrawal strategies side by side. On the left, the static plan. You take 4% of the initial balance, $40,000, and you increase it by inflation every single year, no matter what the market does. In year 1, the market drops 40%. Your $1 million becomes $600,000, but you still withdraw $40,000. Now you're at $560,000. In year 2, the market is flat. You still withdraw $40,000 plus inflation. Call it $41,200. Now you're at $518,800. By year 3, Even if the market starts recovering, you're already dug in a hole so deep that your portfolio may never catch up. On the right, the dynamic plan. Same starting balance, same crash, but instead of blindly withdrawing 4% plus inflation, you use a guardrail rule. Here's one simple version. If your portfolio drops below 80% of its starting value, you cut your spending by 10% until it recovers. In year one, after the crash, your portfolio is at $600,000. You cut spending from $40,000 to $36,000. That $4,000 cut sounds painful, but it keeps more of your portfolio invested during the recovery. Researchers at Morningstar and Vanguard have run thousands of Monte Carlo simulations on exactly this scenario. The conclusion is consistent. Dynamic spending rules increase the probability that a portfolio lasts 30 years, often by 10 to 20 percentage points, compared with the rigid 4% rule. A dynamic withdrawal plan doesn't just help you survive a crash, it gives your portfolio the breathing room it needs to recover. Okay, case study number 1, the 2000 retiree. Let's put this into real history. What happened to someone who retired right at the top of the dot-com bubble? Meet retiree A. They retired in January of 2000 with $1 million in a 60-40 portfolio. They followed the 4% rule. They took $40,000 in year one and increased it by inflation every year. In the first 3 years of their retirement, the S&P 500 roughly fell 40% from its peak. Bonds helped a little, but it's not enough. By 2003, retiree A's portfolio was down to about $650,000, and they had already withdrawn over $120,000 in total. Then the market recovered. But here's the crucial part. The recovery happened on a much smaller base. Even though the 2000s eventually gave way to a strong bull market, retiree A's portfolio never fully recovered. By 2010, they were still below their starting balance in real terms. By 2020, they were at serious risk of running out of money. This is the classic sequence of returns disaster. The crash happened at the worst possible time, right when you started selling shares to live on. Now, could they have done better? Yes, if retiree A used a simple guardrail, for example, cutting withdrawals by 10% when the portfolio fell below $800,000, they would have preserved tens of thousands of dollars in market exposure during the recovery. They also could have used a bucket strategy, which we'll get into later, to avoid selling stocks at the bottom. The year 2000 retiree proves that even a long-term market recovery may not save you if you're forced to sell into the crash early in retirement. The 2008 retiree. Now let's look at someone who retired into an even scarier market crash. 2008. Retiree B retired in January 2008 with the same $1 million and the same 60-40 split. The financial crisis hit. Stocks fell nearly 57 from its peak. It was terrifying. Well, retiree B had one big advantage over the 2000 retiree. The recovery was fast and powerful. By March 2009, the market bottomed. By 2012, the S&P 500 had recovered its previous high. By 2017, retiree B's portfolio was likely larger than when they started, if they didn't panic and abandon their plan. However, the danger wasn't just the market, it's always behavior. Many retirees in 2008 sold everything and moved to cash at the bottom. They locked in their losses and missed the recovery. That's not a market failure. That's a plan failure. The retirees who survived 2008 did 3 things. They had a cash buffer, at least 1 to 2 years of expenses outside the market. They rebalanced back into stocks when stocks were cheap, which is hard to do emotionally, but mathematically, it's correct. They either cut discretionary spending temporarily or used a dynamic withdrawal rule to reduce portfolio withdrawals during the worst of the crash. The 2008 retiree shows that a deep crash doesn't have to destroy your retirement, as long as you have the structure in place to avoid selling at the bottom. Now let's talk about the retiree who's planning to stop working today. Retiree C is 64 years old. They were planning to retire in 2022 with $1.2 million. Then 2022 happened. Stocks fell, bonds fell, the classic 60-40 portfolio had one of its worst years in modern history. Suddenly, retiree C's portfolio was at $950,000. Their planned 4% rule of $48,000 now represents more than 5% of their portfolio. This is the exact moment when sequence of returns risk is most dangerous. When you're mentally committed to your retirement, but your portfolio has just taken a hit. Retiree C has 3 realistic options. Option 1, delay retirement by 1 to 3 years. This is often the single most powerful move. Every extra year of work is a year you don't withdraw, a year that you keep contributing, and a year your portfolio can recover. Option 2, if they must retire, reduce the first year withdrawal. Instead of 4%, take 3.5%, or even 3%. That small cut early on has an outsized impact over 30 years. Option 3, Use a bucket strategy to fund the first 5 to 7 years of retirement without selling stocks at depressed prices. For today's near retirees, the most important decision is not what you own, it's when to sell it. So we've seen the problem. Let's get specific about the solution. A guardrail strategy is simple. You set rules in advance for what you'll do if your portfolio crosses certain thresholds. Here are 3 guardrail rules you can use. Rule number 1, the 5% spending floor and ceiling. Instead of increasing withdrawals by inflation every year, you set a range. If your portfolio rises, you can increase spending up by 5%. If it falls, you cut spending by up to 5%. This keeps your withdrawal rate from drifting too far from reality. Rule 2, the 20% portfolio drop rule. If your portfolio falls 20% from its peak, you immediately cut discretionary withdrawals by 10% until it recovers. This is not about living on rice and beans. It's about pausing the big vacation, the kitchen renovation, or the extra gifts until the market stabilizes. Rule 3, the guardrail ceiling. If your portfolio rises significantly, say 50% above your starting balance, you give yourself permission to increase spending or take a lump sum experience. This makes the plan feel rewarding, not just restrictive. Because in the middle of a crash, your emotions take flight. A pre-written rule is what keeps you from making a big mistake. Guardrails work because they turn a scary emotional decision into a boring, pre-planned rule. Guardrails protect your spending. But what protects your investments from being sold at the wrong time? That's where the bucket strategy comes in. The idea is to divide your retirement money into 3 buckets based on when you'll need it. So bucket number 1 is short-term, 1 to 3 years of living expenses in cash, short-term bonds, or other stable assets. This is what you spend from during a crash. You do not touch the other buckets. Bucket number 2, medium term, 3 to 10 years of needs and bonds, balanced funds, or dividend-paying assets. This gives you a bridge while the stock market recovers. Bucket number 3, long term, the rest in growth assets like stocks. This bucket is designed to ride out volatility and fund the later decades of retirement. Here's how it works in practice. When the market is up, you refill bucket 1 by selling from bucket 3. When the market is down, you live entirely from bucket 1 and 2 and let bucket 3 recover. The bucket strategy does not guarantee higher returns, but it guarantees that you will not be forced to sell your growth assets at the worst possible moment. A bucket strategy separates when you need the money from what the market is doing. And that separation is what protects you from sequence of returns risk. Let's pull all of this together into something you can use. If the market drops 20% or more within 5 years of your retirement, here's the checklist. Step 1, pause discretionary withdrawals, the non-essentials, discretionaries, travel, home improvements. Step 2, recalculate your withdrawal rate. Take your planned annual withdrawal and divide it by your current portfolio balance. If it's above 5%, you need a plan to bring it down. Step 3, use cash reserves first. If you have a bucket strategy, spend from bucket 1. If you don't, use any cash or stable assets before selling stocks. Step 4, rebalance. Don't retreat. If stocks have fallen, your portfolio is probably underweight stocks. Rebalancing back to target forces you to buy low, which is exactly what you want. Step 5, review Social Security timing. Delaying Social Security by even 1 year can permanently increase your future income. Step 6, update your plan with a professional. Not to panic, to stress test. A Monte Carlo analysis can show you whether your current plan still works under new assumptions. Step 7, do not make permanent decisions based on temporary volatility. Do not cash out. Do not abandon your strategy. Do not retire early into a crash unless you have no other choice. And that process is what separates retirees who recover from retirees who don't. If this video helped you understand sequence of returns risk, the next thing to do is simple. Grab the crash year checklist in the description and run it by your own numbers. And if you want to go deeper on building a wealth strategy, book a call at nimratis.us or subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm posting videos every week on different subject matters. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.